I'm so... Hi. Let's see. My name's Ingrid, and I'm a practitioner at Healing Arts Center at Healing Arts at New York. And today the workshop is about stress. What our bodies do when we're stressed, how to manage stress, and how to nutritionally support our bodies through stress. And some basic exercises to actually help with stress. So, stress means different things to different people. And that's why it's such an wide range of topics on stress, how to deal with stress. But basically, stress is when our body perceives a threat. It can be physical threat, with physical injury is common for physical stress, back pain when you throw your back out, when you sprain your ankle, tooth pain, any types of pains is physical stress. There's psychological stress, anxiety, worrying, when you have these thoughts going over and over in your head. That's a form of stress. Physical, psychological stress. There's emotional stress. When you're worrying can also be a psychological and emotional stress when you, just can't relax, and emotionally you're grieving or you're angry, you're concerned. Those are types of forms of emotional stress. And so there's also physiological stress, basically when your mind and body connect and what's going on when your mind connects with your body and how your body reacts to stress. So, sometimes when we say stress, people think stress is a negative thing, but there's actually good stress, and that's called eustress, which is eustress. And this type of stress is, really good for us. This is the type of stress that kind of helps us push us to finish deadlines, meet deadlines. It pushes us to get over our stage fright. It pushes us to compete in sports. When you're about to run a race, you get a little stressed. That's kind of the stress I feel sometimes before I do a Facebook Live workshop or any workshop. It kind of amps me up a bit and keeps me focused. So there are types of good stress, and that's eustress. There's also bad types of stress, which is what we're talking about, which is distress. So distress is things like feeling loss, guilt, anxiety, loneliness. And basically the definition of distress is when our ability or resources are set up for failure and we can't supply enough to actually meet our demands. So that's when, maybe when you're at a feeling of loss and you don't have the tools or to grieve, or you don't feel like you have a community where you can express your emotions. So that's considered a form of distress. So in this workshop, we're going to talk a little bit now about physiological stress. One of the biggest things that I think is really important in understanding stress is how it really affects our bodies. Because, especially in this day and age right now with the pandemic, or even before the pandemic, whether you were overworking and you had constant deadlines to meet, or if you're feeling a lot of financial pressure, that's a form of chronic stress. Or if it was, just having to, sometimes people are just naturally worriers and they have chronic stress from just worrying about everything. So, so I want to talk about how that type of stress affects our bodies. And because once our brain and our bodies connect, our mind and body connect, it is not like our brain can automatically just compartmentalize everything and try to figure it out. Even though you may not feel like, you're, maybe you may not feel like you're considered a calm stressor, because you're not sweating, you're not acting out, but however, your body is feeling the stress somehow. So all of that stress will either, if it's not in your mind and you're not an emotional wreck and you're pretty put together, it is going somewhere in your body. Okay. And so physiological stress, like we mentioned, is when there's a perceived threat that places demand on the body, and it's activated in two forms. Okay, the sympathetic nervous system, which is our SNS, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that. And our second part is the Hypothalamic-Pituitary-Adrenal axis, also known as the HPA. So the HPA is a little bit more of like how our body really is sending messages to how our mind is really sending messages to our body to handle the stress, and what's really going on in our bodies when we start feeling the stress. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the sympathetic nervous system. So we all are pretty familiar with the idea of fight or flight. And when we are about to, so when we encounter stress, the idea is like back in the day when we were, hunters and gatherers, and we were open to the elements, and we're going out hunting for food, and we came across a lion. The idea of our automatic body response of either do we stay and fight, or do we run away in flight? Okay, there's also a third part of this fight or flight mode, which is also freeze, which is, do I just freeze and hide behind a tree, or just freeze and pretend I'm nothing and wait for the lion to pass by me? So these are kind of like the SNS, these fight, flight, or freeze is our body's natural way of handling stress. Okay, it's like our automatic response to stress. So some examples of fighting, in this day and age, because now, our stressors look different. We're not having to fight against lions, but our stressors, again, is it our health? Is it financial stress? Is it making sure everyone's taken care of? Career stress, family stress. These are our new stressors in the world in our day and age. And so think about how you handle it. Sometimes when people hear things that are stressful, do they get upset? If you get upset and you start to, yell and want to punch a hole in the wall, that's an automatic response. That's an automatic fight response, right? You want to stand and you want to fight it. Even though you're not like fighting it physically, you're letting that anger out and you're letting that stress out, and you're just like yelling and being argumentative. Or if it's like if you're at work and someone's giving you another deadline, or they're kind of like pushing you to your limit, and you're just kind of like, I can't do this anymore. Why don't you give this assignment to somebody else, because I just can't handle it. That's okay to say, absolutely, but it's like that feeling of rupture that you want to fight. That's the fighting response. Flight is when you want to run away from it, and that's really almost a form of distraction. I think that personally for me, I'm more of a flight and freeze type of person. So when I handle stress, in my mind, I like to say like, okay, I can't deal with this right now, so I'm going to put this on the shelf and come back to it. But really ultimately what I'm doing is I'm trying to distract myself from having to deal with the stress, or deal with the stress. That's a form of flight. Distraction, eating, eating your way is a distraction of, that's a form of flight, right? Not having to actually deal with the stress. Another form of flight could actually just be simply running, right? You're just running away from it because you don't want to deal with it, so you want to go and exercise. Okay? And freeze. Freeze is one of my favorite ones because I really freeze a lot, because I am considered a calm stressor. And I used to think that was like such a great asset to me when I used to work in my high stress jobs. But now I really realize that I'm not really just I'm not a calm stressor. I'm actually just freezing. I'm just kind of like, okay, Ingrid, I would say to myself, and I still say to myself sometimes when I freeze, like, okay, just like stay calm, take a few deep breaths, don't do anything right now, don't do anything rational right now, and put it on the shelf, come back to it, give me a few minutes, which is like a good coping mechanism. But sometimes, my idea of procrastination, I am a big procrastinator too. That's a form of freezing, right? Like I just don't want to deal with it, so I'm just not going to do anything about it. That's a form of freezing. So those are the three sympathetic nervous system responses to stress. Okay, so what happens is, we talked about how there's activated by two systems, the S and S, and we just went through the fight, flight, or freeze response. So now when we perceive the threat and we go through either our fight, flight, or freeze, the second part is what is actually happening in our bodies. And this is when we activate the hypothalamic-pituitary-adrenal response, which is, again, also known as the HPA axis. Okay, so the hypothalamus, okay, this is what's actually going in our bodies, releasing the hormones. Our hypothalamus is pretty much located here inside the brain. Okay, our hypothalamus is a gland that controls our hormones. Okay, what happens is once we start feeling the stress, our hypothalamus is triggered. Okay, and this is a sense of an emergency response, and it releases something called CRH, which is corticotropic trophin releasing hormone. So our hypothalamus releases CRH, which then triggers into our pituitary, which is right underneath our hypothalamus. So our pituitary gland is also known as the master gland, and this one controls the activity of most secreting hormones glands. So another thing that the pituitary gland also controls and sends messages to is our ovaries, our testes, and our adrenals. So again, our hypothalamus is right up here, somewhere in the middle of our brain, and it releases CRH to the pituitary, which is directly underneath. So our pituitary then gets this message from the CRH, and it releases ACTH, which is adrenocorticotropic hormone. And that sends a message to our adrenals. So from our hypothalamus going to our pituitary releases a message to our adrenals. So where are the adrenals? We all know about adrenaline. We're all familiar with, or another common term is adrenal fatigue. These are little glands that sit right above your kidneys. So our kidneys are located about right here in our bodies, on our back. And a kidney kind of looks like the kidney bean. And then on top of it, if you can imagine this little hat, right here, the adrenals, sits right on top of our kidneys. Okay. This little gland here, we have two of them that sit on both of our kidneys. It secretes cortisol, adrenaline. It's like when we start to get that adrenaline rush, it's all from our little adrenals, sitting on top. Okay. So when the pituitary releases the ACTH, the adrenals get a message right here on the back of our sitting on top of our kidneys, and it releases cortisol. Okay. So when cortisol is released, that's when our adrenaline goes up. That's when you start feeling your heartbeat racing. Cortisol releases messages in our bodies to release our stored glucose. Also to start interacting with the lipids, the fat, and the protein in our body to get our energy boosting. So that push of adrenaline is really a push of energy that we need. So living in New York City, I feel that for myself, sometimes just walking down the street activates my stressors, and I get a little bit of an adrenaline rush walking down the street because I'm like, oh my gosh, the crowd, the energy, having to dodge this, or even running after my train or running after the subway because I think I'm going to be late. All of these little things can actually activate this HPA response, our axis response. And it's pumping adrenaline through our bodies. So what happens is, again, we talked about good stress and bad stress. The bad stress is if it's chronic. If this is constantly going through our bodies every day, every second almost, or every hour. And this is where we start to feel the effects on our body. So one of the things about stress that we always talk about is inflammation. stress causes inflammation in our body. And if you can imagine having like chronic stress throughout the day, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, just imagine this low grade, chronic inflammation building in our bodies. This also creates acidity in our bodies. We talked. I know Dr. Armistead talked about balancing your pH levels, and it causes just overall health-wise a lot of things that we don't really want to happen. Okay, so after talking about bring them on camera. Oh, sorry. I'm using a new Facebook system, and I'm reading the comments, and I'm just not used to it. So I'm like, it says bring them on camera, but I got it. I understand now. Okay. So anyway, sorry. So going back to chronic stress. So when we start to have chronic stress, and I talked about the low grade inflammation, the two systems in our body that gets the most damage from chronic stress is our digestion and our blood sugar regulation. Okay, so blood sugar regulation is where I want to talk about nutrition. So have you ever noticed that when you're stressed, the first thing you grab is a cookie, a bagel, a donut, ice cream, a glass of wine, maybe a bottle of wine, a cocktail. So it's not a surprise that you're reaching out for these sweet things. Remember when we talked briefly about our adrenaline and our adrenals, how it releases cortisol so that our bodies can create energy and glucose? It's that release of glucose that makes us feel that burst of energy. Okay, so when we start to eat these sweet things, we're basically mimicking this idea of that constant rush, because our bodies are constantly, if you're in a state of chronic stress, you're constantly needing that boost. Caffeine is something very similar to that too. But that sugar, that glucose, that energy, you're just like reaching it because your body's so used to having to create this boost of energy through glucose. That's why we automatically grab these sweet treats, alcohol, again, cookies and pastries. I think my big thing is I love croissants, I really love chocolate croissants. So I used to eat a lot of chocolate croissants when I was really stressed, whether I consciously knew that or not. Okay, so let's talk about blood sugar regulation, because this is something that's really important to the HPA axis, right? So our blood sugar levels regulation, if I could draw this on a graph, it should be pretty much like this. Okay. There is chronic stress throughout the day, but overall we should be kind of wavering in between even keel line. Okay. So, however, when we are stressed, what happens is our blood sugar level, instead of wavering in between here, it goes straight up from the adrenaline rush, the cortisol, and then as fast as it goes up, it completely crashes just as fast down. Okay, so regular blood sugar regulation should look something similar like this, but when we're stressed, it goes boom, and it goes near that constant crash. Okay, that instant crash. So if your body is used to this state of even keelness, it's also called homeostasis. Okay, when your body is constantly going up and down in terms of your blood sugar level, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. So if you're going up and you're crashing down, your body will naturally try to get itself back up. But because it's so low, it's going to shoot that adrenaline back up, and it's going to go back down just as fast. Okay. So that's our body's natural way of, if we're not supporting it nutritionally to get that even keel blood sugar regulation, it's naturally going up and down, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. Okay, so when you start throwing, like we talked about in states of stress, cookies, bagels, pastries, donuts, the candy bar, ice cream, glass of wine, we are basically mimicking this up and down motion. Okay, because these foods that we're eating, the processed sugar, the refined sugar, the processed sweets, and these pastries, there's not a lot of nutritionally dense, there's not a lot of nutrients in any of these things that our body can hold on to. So that's why when we eat it, we are in this vicious cycle of going back up and down. Our body is already used to this up and down motion. Okay, because of the chronic stress. And when we eat, we're going and we're recreating this constant up and down motion. So that's why in times of stress, we just want to eat junk food, right? Because it kind of feels good. It feels good because our body is like responding to it through this adrenaline rush. So how do we get it to be this even keel? How do we support it through times of stress so that we aren't crashing up and down? How do we get it so that, we're supporting our bodies so that even though we are stressed, we're not mimicking and we're not recreating through our food choices, this up and down peaks and valleys of our blood sugar. It's kind of pretty basic. It really goes back to eating whole foods, whole nutritional dense foods. And why is that important? Because it keeps us feeling fuller longer and it helps regulate our blood sugar levels. So I always love eating, when it comes to regulating blood sugar levels, I'm a big fan of eating protein and fat and complex carbohydrates. Sugar, cookies, pastas, bagels, sometimes even granola, right? That's laden with a lot of fruit, sugar, and not so healthy stuff. Processed foods, those are considered processed foods, but I also kind of think of them as really simple, complex carbohydrates. And so what happens is when we start to eat these foods, our digestive tract, it'll start to, in our previous workshop of digestion, our digestion starts to absorb. It starts to break it down, right? And it's trying to extract nutrients from the foods we just ate. Even though the volume of our food when we eat processed foods may be high, the nutritional value is very low. So as our digestive tract is trying to extract these nutrients to send to the rest of our bodies, it's not very much nutrients. That's why after you eat these things, you really do feel hungry shortly, maybe after half an hour, maybe even after an hour. You're just like not feeling fulfilled, right? Maybe the word is my craving. I'm not satisfied. I don't feel satisfied from my cravings. It's simply because there's no nutrients for your body to extract from the foods we just ate, the processed foods. So in order to combat that, if we eat whole nutritional dense foods, as we're eating these foods, it can extract the fiber, the macronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the protein, the healthy fats. And as it extracts these, you feel fuller longer. And because you're feeling fuller longer, instead of this blood sugar going up and down, we're really making our blood sugar regulation feel a little bit more even keel. It's easier for our bodies to go back into homeostasis mode. Okay, so again, it's about eating whole, nutrition-dense foods, proteins, high in protein, fat, and complex carbohydrates. So what are some of these things? Well, in terms of fat, I love to eat nut butters, nut seed butters. Those are really high in fat. Things in coconut oil, avocado oil, salmon, eating foods or cooking foods with a grass-fed butter. These are great sources of good quality fats. And when you eat fat, it actually, if you think of fire burning, these quick, simple carbohydrates are like kindling wood, right? Kindling wood is there to help start the fire. As fast as it burns, it's as fast as it goes away. But when you think of fats and protein, it's like big chunky logs that help the wood burn longer, and not just bigger, but also longer. So again, the healthy fats, salmon, nut butters. I also really like those fat bombs, like those keto fat bombs where they're made with nut butter. If some people can have For those who can't have chocolate, even dusting it with cocoa powder is really nice to do too. Okay, some healthy proteins. Again, it's no wonder that, like, I'm going to say nuts again and seeds. That nut butter, it's not in nature. You'll often find things that are high in protein or also high in fat. Even like grass-fed beef. It's not by mistake, but it's actually by design. So nuts are really good, high in protein. Let's see what else. Beans are great. General meat, salmon, turkey, chicken, salmon. Those are things that are also high in protein that are really good for us. So those are some of the ideas, right? So it's not just about grabbing these quick snacks now, right? We're going to have to shift from eating from stressful modes of like these instant snacks to fulfill our stress cravings, but we're going to have to look at our whole diet and see where we can inject more fat and protein to keep us feeling more homeostasis. So another example is when it comes to blood sugar regulation, how many of us, eat breakfast, eat lunch, and then in the afternoon, shortly after lunch, you feel that afternoon slump where you feel like you need to grab a cup of coffee to get you back and feeling more packed up like you did in the morning. That's a sign of your blood sugar dropping. So again, looking at your whole diet, is it about introducing more fats and proteins into your breakfast? Is it about layering it a little bit more into your lunch? So for example, if you're eating lunch, if you're eating burgers on a bun with a side of French fries, that's really high in carbs, right? Your form of protein and fat would probably be from the hamburger patty and maybe the cheese that you're putting on top of it. And if you're eating just a little side of maybe the lettuce and the tomato on top of your bun is like your form of complex carbohydrates, right? So you can see how your body is going to burn up that energy really, really fast. And that little piece of your meat patty and that cheese is all you have for protein and healthy fats. So if you switch your lunch, maybe into something like, I'm going to say it, a nice salad with all these nice green leafy vegetables. Also drizzle some olive oil, sesame seed oil, avocado oil for your healthy fats. And then you layer on your protein, whether it's going to be lean chicken, fish, or even like some sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. This is a really great avocados. This is like a great meal that has a great combination of healthy fats, protein, and carbohydrates or complex ones. Okay, so when you eat that, your body is actually taking its time to break down all of these things, all of the food that you're eating, and it's taking time to extract the nutrients through your digestive system to bring it back into your through your blood and getting it through the rest of your body, all the nutrients your body needs. So that's why it's really important to eat these balanced meals so that we combat wanting to grab like a quick snack. So if you ever notice, right, if you eat, say you eat like a bowl of oatmeal, right, which is great, but it's also really high in carbs, right? And we just said carbohydrates are like kindling wood. You eat oatmeal in the morning and then you drink your cup of coffee with it. That would be the coffee will automatically get you up and going and punch your adrenaline up, right, with the caffeine. And then for lunch, say you eat chicken fingers, right, and a side of French fries. And, knowing how processed chicken fingers and French fries are, as yummy as it is processed. So in terms of the nutrient value in these things, again, the volume may be high and you may feel immediately full, but as your body starts to break it up, there's not really a lot of nutrients for you to feel, to fuel the rest of your body. And then you drink it with a side of, I actually used to eat like this, so I'll say Diet Coke. And then, in the afternoon, maybe like at 3:00, you start to feel a little sluggish. So you grab that cup of coffee. So that cup of coffee is giving you that chemical like reaction for your blood sugar to go back up, right? So again, see how that cycle starts. you get a little hungry, you feel a little slump, and then you're going to go ahead and grab something that gives you back that sugar, that high, that adrenaline rush. And it's the same thing with stress, because you're constantly feeling chronic stress. You really want to maintain, being up here when you really need to be up here in this even keel manner, but you're so used to these peaks and valleys that you're grabbing food that recreate these peaks and valleys through your blood sugar. Okay, so So some of the examples of healthy snacks, if you are a snacker and you feel like you are like, oh my gosh, I'm totally stressed and I just need to eat something, I don't know what to eat. These are some of the things that I like to grab. I don't really have a sweet tooth when I'm stressed. When I'm a stress eater, when I stress eat, I don't really eat sweets, but I really love salty things. And what I realized that from eating salty things is that I really just like crunchy things. So my go-to things when I feel stressed is really potato chips and French fries, right? And it's like that like crispiness of the French fries and that snap of the potato chips that kind of give me like, I don't know whether it's because I really want to fight something, so I'm just like chomping down, and that snapping noise makes my brain think I'm actually like, punching something down besides punching a wall down because I'm stressed. So for me, my healthy snacks when I'm stressed and I like feel like I'm stressed, I automatically reach go for carrots, and I go for celery, and I go for cucumber, because it kind of mimics that crunchiness that I'm really, really wanting. I'm not really craving the salt, but I'm really craving the crunch, right? So I grab celery, I grab carrots, and I dip it in hummus. And my hummus, I like to drizzle a little bit of good quality extra olive oil to get my healthy fats. So I do a quick snack of that. When I am, some other things that I really like to do is I like to eat like an apple, because I like things crunchy. And I put some nut butter on top of it. And sometimes if I do feel like I need something sweet, I'll kind of drizzle a little bit of raw honey or maple syrup on top of it. Another great one is bananas, honey, and again, nut butter. And again, because I like crunchy things, I put it on a rice cracker. Those like healthy things. But see how like the fruit, the vegetables, and the nut butter, these are all healthy whole foods. And that when I'm eating them, even though it's satisfying my brain and alleviating that stress because I want that crunch, my body is actually, by eating this, it's regulate. Even though I'm feeling this way and my blood sugar is going this way, I'm not going to dip that far because I'm putting these healthy foods in. Even though I'm going to come down from it, I'm going to come down like maybe a little bit closer to my, my homeostasis mode. I'm not going to be crashing. That's the point. If we can nutritionally support ourselves from crashing back down and then having to feel like we have to go back up again, that's the goal. So these foods that are, those are some examples that I like to eat. Sometimes I also drink water, because I feel like, again, when I shared a little bit about my fight or flight response is either to freeze or to flight, to run away, and I want to distract myself with food. I just kind of drink some water and realize like, okay, I'm not really that hungry. I just want to eat something. I just drink some water and I feel full and I'm totally okay. And also, I'm a big proponent of water. Water is really our sixth nutrient in our bodies after fat, protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Then comes water. And I think that most of us aren't drinking enough. So that's what I do sometimes. I'll just drink some water and wait to see if I need something else. Okay, so those are some examples of eating that help manage stress, right? So I want you guys to think about, as you're thinking about your nutritionally supporting your bodies through stressful times, think of, what really helps is really making a food journal, writing down the things that you're eating throughout the day, and that's going to help you see your eating patterns. Right? And then you're going to start to realize, am I just eating a bunch of carbohydrates? Am I eating a bunch of refined sugary foods? Notice that if you are perpetuating, your cycle, your stress cycle. And again, back to your blood sugar, this up and down motion. Okay? So that's how I like to support my body nutritionally in times of stress. Some other ways to support ourselves through stress, some really practical exercises. I'll go through a few of them. Breathing. Breathing really, really is a great way to manage stress and to actually break the cycle of stress. Okay, so how many of us notice by the end of the day, or even like when you're after you go through a stressful situation, you notice your body posture, your shoulders are up to your ears, you're a little hunched back, and you're just like really tightly wound up. Whether you're conscious of it or not, because I know that when I get stressed, my shoulders start to go up, and I think it's my way of like protecting myself a bit, but your shoulders go up and you just get like stressed out this way. Okay. If you notice whether you're conscious of it or not, it's because you're not breathing deeply. And that shallow breathing is a sign of stress. Even if you think about it, when you're going through something stressful, are you taking like, the last thing you think of is if I'm breathing properly. You're definitely breathing to get oxygen, but the reality is we're breathing really shallow breaths. And that's why we kind of pinch up. When we do shallow breathing, our jaws get tight, our chest contracts in, we're just holding a lot of tension in our bodies. So breathing is a great way of relieving stress. And it can be really simple. One thing is consider doing slow breathing. And this is one thing that I really like to do. And it's pretty easy. When I find myself like hunched up and like kind of like a little bit like in a panic, or just like realizing that I'm holding a lot of tension in my body because I'm stressed, I'd simply take a slow breath. And it really all is simple as inhaling for 8 counts and letting it go for 9 counts. So let's do that together, because I'm pretty sure, it's always nice to take a little pause and do some slow breathing. So let's go ahead and together, let's take a big inhale through the nose for 8 counts. And gently exhale through your mouth for 9 to 10 counts. I'm going to go ahead and do that again, and at your own rate and at your own count, let's go ahead and inhale through the nose for 8 counts. And breathe out through the mouth for 9. And even as I'm doing this breathing exercise, the slow breathing, I'm noticing my shoulders going down as I exhale. So you're welcome to do this for a minute. And again, with our blood sugar that we talked about of stress, this vicious cycle of more stress creates more stress. Simply taking a pause for the slow breathing exercise will break the cycle of stress, creating more stress. And again, you're welcome to do that as long as you need. If it's just for, 5 counts up to a minute, that would be fantastic. Okay. Another great breathing exercise that I like to do is called the 4-7-9 breathing. And sometimes I say 4, 5, 6, but it's really 4-7-9. And it's as simple as inhaling for 4 counts. Then what we do is we hold our breaths in for 7 counts. And then after 7 counts, we exhale for 9 counts. Okay. And this is like really way of consciously bringing awareness to your present moment and slowing things down. And again, breaking the cycle of like physiological stress in our bodies. And again, it's like a way of like kind of like snapping our minds out of that stressful mode, so that introducing oxygen into our bodies to let our bodies know that it's safe and we can just relax. So let's go ahead and do that together, the 4-7-9 count. So go ahead and take a deep breath in through the nose for 4 counts. We'll go ahead and hold for 7. Let's go ahead and exhale through the mouth for 9. That made me like really relax. And again, please do this for up to a minute. Do it a few times, as many times as you need to just feel present in the moment. Okay. And then there's another really great one for those who practice yoga. You may be familiar with this. It's called the alternate nostril breathing. So it's basically when you plug one nostril and you inhale from one nostril and then you release it through the other, exhale through the other. So just kind of a little bit of like this yoga and yogic practice. Our left side is considered our yin side, which is cooler and lunar. Our right side is called our yang, which is warmer and solar. So knowing the left and right yin and yang, when we're in a state of stress, we're feeling hot and bothered. Our bodies are feeling hot and bothered. So when we do this alternate nostril breathing, what we want to do is we want to start with our left side and inhale and exhale just from the left nostril. And it's really this simple. So you want to do is you want to take your index finger and your middle finger and go ahead and place it in the middle of your brow, like so. It's actually really calming too. And you're going to go ahead and put your thumb over your left nose, and then you're going to take your fourth finger and go ahead, and it's going to go over your right nostril. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to hold the right nostril because we want to breathe in from our left side, which is our yin cooler side. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and take a deep breath in. Hold it for a second. And go ahead and breathe out from your left side now. We'll go ahead and do that again together. Again, I'm plugging my right nostril and I'm breathing in through my left side. So go ahead and take a deep breath in from your left nostril. Take a moment to hold it. And go ahead and release through your left side. So that will naturally make you feel more grounded, bringing more cool energy into your body. And after you do that for a few times, what we want to do is recreate the balance, right? The idea of creating yin and yang balance. So after doing that a few times, just breathing in and out from your left nostril, what we're going to do is we're going to alternate from the left and the right. So, meaning we'll go breath in through the left nostril, we'll hold it, and then we're going to plug the right side and breathe out through our right side. This idea of this in and out cycle, balancing the yin and the yang. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice that together. Taking my 2 fingers, putting in the middle of my brow. I'm going to hold my right nostril and breathe in through my left. Hold. And I'm going to release my right side and exhale through my my right nostril. And again, to recreate and bring more balance and continue the cycle, now I'm going to breathe in from my right. I'm going to hold. Breathe out through the left. So it's going to look like this. Now that I breathed it, now that I exhaled from my left, I'm going to go back and inhale from my left. Hold. And exhale from the right side. And you're welcome to repeat that cycle up to a minute. And again, this type of breathing is really great to get you breaking that vicious cycle, the chronic stress cycle. Again, bringing more peace and calmness into your body, and really detaching from your whatever that's that stressful situation. It's just kind of like releasing it from your body and your mind. Okay. Another great way to manage and release stress, meditation. Meditating looks different to many different types of people. Okay, and it's okay to have your own meditation practice. You don't always have to sit in silence and dig deep in and look inside. If that's your preference of meditation, amazing, definitely go for it. If you're new to meditation, you're welcome to do any of the slow breathing exercises that we did as a form of meditation. It's really just carving out that time in your day. Give yourself maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. The longer you meditate, the better it is to relieve your stress. You're welcome to do the alternative nostril breathing, as a form of meditation. Another great way of meditating is also, if you're active, journaling. Journal, write everything out. I'm such a proponent of like freehand journaling. Just like let everything out. There are things that are subconscious and we're holding on through the whole entire day, whether we realize it or not. And we just need to let it out. And if you don't have the verbal words to do it, just let your hand just write it out at anything. Just let anything come out and let it all out. Don't censor yourself. Don't judge your writing. Just let it out. It's just a piece of paper, an ink, and you're just letting words flow. And then once you release it, once you write it down on that piece of paper, know that it's released and out of your body. Okay, those are some easy forms of meditation. You're also welcome, I love YouTube for finding guided meditations. Sometimes I don't know how to meditate, or I'm just so active I can't even calm myself. So hearing another voice leading me through a meditation really helps me just focus and just give me the tools, that hand holding that I need sometimes when I need to do a guided meditation. Okay, another form of relieving stress, just be simply even working out. Running, walking. If it's jogging for you, that's great. If it's jump roping, that's great. Jumping on a trampoline, doing 20 minutes of cardio. Those are great ways to physically release that stress from your body. And also, as you're going, some people, I know a lot of people when they're running or they're doing exercise, it's a way for them to relax their mind. And it's a way for them to, as their body's moving, their mind's just kind of going through what they need to, deleting almost, or downloading and releasing whatever thoughts they need to just let go and process. Those are that's a great way too. I love it. I really like exercising because I really feel really gratified after I work out and I feel that stress, feel that sweat. I feel like I've exercised away some of my stress that I've bottled up in my body, because I couldn't find the words to express it outwardly. Okay. So those are some ways to relieve stress. Again, nutritionally, it's not a coincidence that we talk about, healthy diet equals healthy mind and healthy body, because again, we just simply touched upon, regulating our blood sugar levels by eating a nice well-rounded meals of protein, fat, and complex carbohydrates. So that we're not grabbing these processed foods and these quick sugary things to keep our blood sugar regulating up and down, because we want to constantly create, a natural state of homeostasis for our body. We gave some quick breathing exercises that you can do. And again, it doesn't really take much to stop and do a breathing exercise for a minute in your day and then reset your body and your mind. We also talked about exercising. We also talked about meditating. Oh, I also like to use sometimes essential oils to help relax my mind. Because I mentioned earlier, when my stress mode is to freeze, I really like to smell things like peppermint and citrus to make me move. You know, some people really love the smell of lavender. That's really soothing and calming. And essential oils are really great to help with that too. One thing that I really like, sometimes I'll use when I do the alternative nostril breathing, I actually just put a little bit of essential oils on my palm. And then as I do my alternative nostril breathing, it's right here that's so close to my nose that I'm inhaling it and exhaling it. And it actually like really gives me this really great all sensory experience. So those are some easy ways to deal with stress. It's really important that I know during this pandemic time, you know, stress can be, you know, everyone's feeling a little bit stressed. And, you know, I want to let everybody know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. So you're always welcome to reach out to any of us. You know, if you need any help managing your stress, we're here at Healing Arts to support you nutritionally through your stress. And we'd love to give you some techniques to manage your stress too. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us here. That's pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions? Any comments? Let me see. Okay. If not, you know, you're welcome to reach out to me. My email is Ingrid, Ingrid @healingarts.com. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye.